Here are 6 of the most underrated performance cars in the world right now. Honda NSX. When the NSX was resurrected in 2017, it was met with high praise by most reviewers. It's extremely fast, it looks like a spaceship, and it has a futuristic powertrain that combines a twin-turbo V6 with 3 electric motors to make 573 brake horsepower. It's an excellent and unusual supercar, and a genuine rival for the McLaren 570 and Audi R8. So why don't you see any of them on the road? We reckon it's something to do with the name, because other than day-to-day usability, it's hard to find much that connects this car to the old NSX. Perhaps if it was a little easier to see the DNA of the old car in the new model, it would have been more popular. Or perhaps it's just badge snobbery, and people aren't willing to spend 150 grand on a Honda. Porsche 718. It may sound a bit weird to call any Porsche underrated, since it's one of the most revered brands in the world. Most things that the German car maker touches turns to gold, but not everything. In 2017, Porsche unveiled the new 718 Boxster and Cayman. Dynamically, they were even better than the cars that came before them, and they looked fantastic. But in the eyes of many, there was a problem. Because for the first time in over 20 years, these new Porsches had 4-cylinder engines. This shouldn't come as a huge surprise, since smaller, more efficient engines is the way the world is going. But in a Porsche? A lot of people weren't convinced, and if you listen to the sound of the new car and the old car back to back, it's easy to see why. But a muted exhaust note does not change the fact that the 718 is a brilliant, modern sports car, and an improvement over its predecessor in nearly every way. Audi TT. The Audi TT has been around for over 20 years, and it struggled with image problems the entire time. The early models were accused of being hairdressers' cars that prioritized style over performance. Aggressive new styling and improved dynamics on later models got rid of that reputation, but the TT was never quite able to get rid of its other reputation as the safe sports car. Because it's pretty much the only car in its segment that's available exclusively with 4-wheel drive, it's often accused of being the sports car for people who aren't very good drivers or don't like to go sideways. But the truth is, most of us don't spend much time on track or drifting around roundabouts. And in the real world, the TT is just a very good sports car, while the monstrous TT RS is essentially a baby R8. Hyundai i30N. I know what you're thinking, the i30N is highly rated. True, but it should be more highly rated. The i30N is by miles the best Hyundai ever made, but it's still a Hyundai. And unfortunately, that means that people who don't really know much about cars will overlook it, and probably just buy a Golf GTI, which is a shame because the i30N is arguably a more exciting hot hatch. To petrolheads, the i30N will be remembered as the car that transformed Hyundai's public image, but for the common folk, it might take 2 or 3 more brilliant cars before the Korean brand is able to fully shrug off its reputation for making sensible but slightly dull family cars. Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Alfa Romeo is back to its best at the moment, and the range-topping Quadrifoglio cars are some of the most exciting cars on sale today. Predictably, it's the Giulia Saloon that gets most of the love, but the Stelvio should not be overlooked. Yes, it's an SUV and the raised ride height does compromise the handling, but only very slightly. It is by far the best handling super SUV on sale, except maybe the Urus, which costs more than double. What's more, because of its all-wheel drive system, the Stelvio Quadrifoglio actually feels faster than its Giulia counterpart. You could actually make a case for the Stelvio Quadrifoglio being the best performance Alfa right now. But you'd probably take the Giulia, and to be honest, so would we, because it's cooler. Ferrari Portofino. The Portofino is the entry-level Ferrari, half Italian supercar, half comfy GT. By all accounts, it does a very good job of both and a much better job than the car that came before it, the California, which despite selling well was often criticised for being too soft and not a real Ferrari. The new car is a real Ferrari. It's beautiful, sharper to drive and scary fast, just like a Ferrari should be. Yet despite huge improvements across the board, no one really talks about the Portofino. It's almost as if this new car has inherited its predecessor's reputation as the fat old man's Ferrari. Or maybe it's just the curse of being the cheapest car in the Fezzer range. Either way, it's one of the most underrated cars on sale today. What would you add to our list of underrated performance cars? Let us know in the comments.